Since President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. took office 7 months ago, there has been a succession of high-level U.S. visits to Manila. On Thursday, it was Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin's turn.
I have always said that it seems to me that the future of the Philippines, and for that matter the Asia Pacific, will always have to involve the United States.
Walking the talk, the Marcos administration has granted the U.S. military access to 4 more sites, meaning American troops will now be able to operate in 9 locations. But Austin has clarified there will be no permanent U.S. bases.
And it also provides us the ability to respond effectively to humanitarian issues and also disaster relief and other types of crises.
One of the bigger and long-standing crises is the territorial dispute between Manila and Beijing in the South China Sea. Although an international ruling in 2016 invalidated China's vast claims, the Asian giant has built artificial islands and continues to encroach on Philippine waters. That, and China's threat to take Taiwan by force, have critics fearing a bigger U.S. military presence will serve more as an irritant rather than a deterrent.
We think that this move by the United States and Philippine governments will further escalate tensions in the West Philippine Sea, in the South China Sea, as well as in the region of Taiwan. And we do not want the Philippines to be part of that conflict.
Former President Rodrigo Duterte wanted to scrap the agreement that allows joint military drills between the Philippines and the U.S. But under his successor, the largest Balikatan War Games, involving 16,000 soldiers, are planned for April. The United States and the Philippines military alliance may have been through a few rocky years, but the Philippine government under President Marcos has put all that behind. One could say it's an old partnership in a new era. Barnaby, Al Jazeera, Manila.
Gregory Polling's Director of Southeast Asia Program at the Center for Strategic and International Studies. He's joining us on Skype from Washington, D.C. Good to have you with us on Al Jazeera. We heard Lloyd Austin saying there that there weren't going to be any permanent bases, even though the U.S. troops would have access to all these additional ones. Does this in any way change any sort of power balance within the region?
Yes and no. I mean, Secretary Austin's absolutely right. This agreement doesn't allow permanent U.S. basing. These are Philippine facilities. The model here is more like what the Americans are doing in Australia, rotating through Australian facilities. It doesn't radically alter the balance of power in, say, a Taiwan contingency, but it will seriously aid the U.S.-Philippine alliance, particularly in the South China Sea, where the distances to U.S. basing in Japan and Guam are just prohibitive. The Americans, if they're going to defend Filipinos at sea, need to be closer to the action.
We heard in Barnaby Lowe's report there, one of the protesters against this move saying that there was a risk that this could escalate tension. How likely is that, do you think?
I'd say the tensions have been escalating just fine without this. I mean, when we only look at this from the perspective of China, we rob the Philippines of its own agency. What we should be asking is, what has Beijing done over the last several years to make successive Philippine administrations so scared that they see no option but to deepen the alliance with the Americans?
Over the last couple of years, the nature of the interactions that we've seen between China and the Philippines have been of a somewhat non-military scale, if I can put it like that. It's not been big attacks or big assaults. It's been Chinese Navy, for example, pushing Philippine fishermen off reefs where they've been fishing. It's been stuff at that level. In what way does this help to address that, if indeed it actually does?
So the biggest thing it's going to do in the short term is help with patrol and surveillance capabilities so the Filipinos can keep an eye on their own waters and aid the modernization efforts of the Philippine military. Because the way that China plans to take the South China Sea is not with a big show of force. It's by slowly shoving the Filipinos and other Southeast Asians out. And the Americans can help maintain some degree of access.
How is China going to react to this? Because, of course, China also has bilateral agreements in terms of trade and certainly investment in the Philippines.
That's right. So the Ministry of Foreign Affairs spokesperson already issued a statement, of course, saying that this is terrible and part of a U.S. containment policy. That, of course, is a bit like the boy who cried wolf. Everything the U.S. does in Asia is part of a containment policy in the eyes of Beijing at this point. I don't think it will fundamentally change anything about Beijing's approach to the Philippines, though, because China has pursued the exact same coercive approach in the South China Sea across now 3 Philippine administrations, both pro and anti-American. So it doesn't seem like Manila's behavior actually has any impact on the way China kicks the Philippines around.
Really interesting to get your thoughts on this. Gregory Poling, thank you very much indeed for your time.
Thank you.